So let me ask you, have you ever wondered why we continually talk about leadership and the need to find better leaders? Why is it that too many of our leaders continue to disappoint us year after year? I mean, it seems like every day we're hearing some story about a manager who's bullied his or her employees or has demonstrated no emotional intelligence, or maybe worse, hasn't shown any compassion during a stressful time like, I don't know, a pandemic. More compassionate now? Why aren't we always compassionate toward our employees regardless of what's going on in the world? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today in our video. What it takes to be the leader that people need and want. Hey folks, Christopher Freeze here. For the past few years, I've been searching for ways into learning about how to teach and train people about leadership and why we've done it year after year and decade after decade, but it really seems to make no lasting difference. I mean, with all the training, why don't we have consistent and better leaders? I have two reasons. The first is that when we teach leadership, people simply aren't going home and practicing what they've been taught. I mean, they read the books, they listen to the podcast, they watch the video series, but when it comes to actually implementing what they've learned, they just don't practice the techniques. Why? Well, because leadership's hard. It takes time and energy and a willingness to serve others above yourself. And it carries with it this implied understanding that, you know what, we're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes. Practicing leadership means dealing with people who are probably going to judge you for your actions, make fun of you, maybe tell you how wrong you are, or that you don't know what you're doing, or maybe you're never going to amount to much as a leader. Unfortunately, for too many people, hearing these comments sounds a lot like what we heard in our childhood. You know, when the people we trusted, usually our parents, but maybe school teachers or coaches or someone else, they'd always say, hey, you know what? You're always wrong, or you're never going to amount to anything, or maybe worse yet, you're such a disappointment. Which brings me to the second reason I think we're always continually looking for better leaders and better leadership. I believe too few of our leaders are trauma-informed, and too many have been infected by childhood trauma themselves. All right, so what do I mean by trauma-informed leadership? Now, that's a good question, one I hope to unpack over the next few weeks. But for today, I want us to focus on this point. Being trauma-informed begins with an understanding that nearly 2 out of every 3 people experienced at least one childhood experience that was adverse during their formative years. And around 12 to 15% of people experience 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. Now, those adverse experiences, often referred to as ACEs, can encompass an emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, emotional, physical neglect, drugs in a household, family members incarcerated, racism, poverty, and of course violence in the community, just to mention a few. Growing up feeling as though you have no control can often manifest itself in people who think they can then, when they reach some level of supervision or leadership, can exert control over others. And along the way, they've never really learned how to correctly interact with someone during work. And I believe it's because of these ACEs that we as leaders must first be self-aware about our own experiences in childhood. But we also need to create that safe, stable, and encouraging environment for our employees when they are at work. We need them to be able to learn, to be vulnerable, to be open, maybe most importantly, to be trusting in front of others. It's really a shift in our thinking from sort of asking the question, what's wrong with you? To asking, what happened to you? So practicing good trauma-informed leadership takes patience, humility, and practice. And hopefully you're willing to learn with me during the next few weeks and then practice what you learn. And if you do, then my promise to you is that you will become a better leader and have a more robust and successful team. Until the next time, my friends, be safe and practice being a trauma-informed leader.